Hi, everybody. Here I am again, Mimi. Can't get rid of me. Be heard, empower yourself. And I keep finding these wonderful guests that I need to bring to you, especially people like myself that are survivors of trauma or addiction and have overcome that and gone on to do great things. And today we have Tonier Cain. Hello, how are you?
Hi. Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, I couldn't wait. In fact, we had a couple glitches setting it up, but finally, we got a right time for both of us. So here we are. So, Tanir, where were you born?
I was born in Maryland. I was
Okay.
born in a hospital in Baltimore, but I was raised in Annapolis, Maryland, which is the capital of Maryland.
Yeah, Maryland. Okay. And what I hate to ask you this, but what decade was it? If you want to share, you could say none of my business.
No, no, believe me, after everything I went through, I am
Mhm.
very
That's
grateful.
the high. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was born 1967.
Good. Okay. All right. So I'm a little older. I was born in 1948. And I bring that up because I think, and we're going to talk about you in a minute, but I think what I'm seeing and hearing on shows and TV in real life is like the generations have changed so much, even from when, from yours. And I grew up, with President Kennedy and the Peace Corps and marching for, integration and women's rights and all of that in the 60s. So we were very, how can I put it, active and advocating. And then even people born in the 60s, because I have daughters that were born in the early 70s, they were still very interested in the world around them. And now I feel like the generation around me, like my grandkids, like they don't care. Like, and they don't know things.
Yeah.
Do you see that yourself?
So my oldest is 40 and my youngest is 20. And so
Okay.
my 20-year-old, she's still at home.
Mhm.
And I think that with her is whatever keeps her interest. You know what I mean? Her attention.
Mhm.
Like, one moment she'll have a soapbox, one moment she doesn't.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
one moment she's speaking up, and the
Well,
other
that's good.
minute, like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be bothered. So
She's
I think
still,
that they just have short attention
yeah,
span.
definitely. Yeah, well, things, I get nervous because I feel like we're going backwards instead of
Oh
forward.
yeah, definitely. Oh,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. In fact, 2 years ago, I was having lunch with a friend of mine who happens to be black and gay.
Hmm.
And I said to him, you all, in a couple of years, we're going to be in trouble. Women,
Hmm.
people of color, and gays. And sure enough, here we are, you know. But getting us back to our own paths that will intersect with that stuff, I'm sure. Um, you're a trauma survivor, right?
Hmm.
And you wrote a book called Healing Neen. And what was that book about?
Well, it's my autobiography. It just so in 2008, we started to shoot the documentary of my life story. And as you know, documentaries are usually an hour or less.
Mhm.
Um, so it's actually 55 minutes. And so it was just so much people still wanted to know.
Mhm.
Also, I wanted to include my faith in my story. I always had it, but of course, in a documentary, it doesn't come out like that. So
Mhm.
I wanted to do a book to talk about my faith and my relationship with God as well. And so in 2014, I got a book deal without a book.
How'd you do that? Curious.
The
Oh, the
documentary.
documentary. Yeah. Mhm.
So the documentary Healing Neen did very well, and so I got a book deal because of the documentary with a huge publishing company, HCI, and I got really detailed in the book from
Yeah.
childhood
Yeah.
to everything. And then at the end is three chapters. Is one for my peers of survivors, one for providers, of services. And then there's one for the church
Yeah.
because I my views of what was going on with the church and people that actually needed help. I felt like they really need to understand that they can cause more harm as well.
Ah, I
And
see.
um,
Mhm.
yeah, so yeah, it's pretty much it's very, I had pastors that told me that they couldn't get through it. It's very graphic,
Oh
is
my
but
gosh.
it's true and it's
Who did
what
the
it is.
documentary? Who did the documentary for
So is I co-produced it, and my one of my very close friends, Laura Cain,
you?
same last name but no relations. She's a Caucasian woman, a very good friend of mine. So she produced and directed.
So it's the same name as the book, right? Healing Neen. And
Mhm.
where can you watch that? Can I watch that somewhere?
Well, yeah, so if you can go on my website, toniercain.com, which is my name.com, or
Okay.
and pretty much that's where you will find the
Okay.
documentary. Um,
So it's a
and
miracle, though, that these people that had your right book found it. Do you know what I mean? Like, um, for me, I mean, people have a lot of talents, but getting them discovered is the hard part. So
yeah,
it's kind of a miracle that they found it, you know.
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah, that's great.
absolutely.
So, what was the pivotal moment, would you say, in your journey? Like you went, well, I don't know how much you want to go into about your trauma.
Well,
Do you want to talk
yeah.
about that?
So, growing up, I, had a lot of neglect and abandonment issues. My mother is a single mom, and it was at one time 10 of us, and no support. Um, she had her own trauma that has never been identified, addressed, or treated.
Mm,
So her escape was alcohol
right.
when I was young, and she numbed herself with alcohol. So when you do that, is you don't take care of your kids. I found out that later because that's what happened with me with drugs with my kids. And so there was a lot of that. Then we were put into foster care,
Mm,
and then at age 14, I went back with my mother, and things didn't change. So, I decided that the only escape for me, the only way for me was suicide at age 14 because I didn't know
mm,
how to live with my mother, but I didn't want to live without my mother.
I
And
understand.
so I attempted suicide, and after that, I went to live with my aunt, who did the very best she could. But I started drinking very early, like age 9. I was stealing drinks at age 9.
Wow.
So by age 15, by age 15, I was an alcoholic. And
Wow, you beat me.
so by the time I went to live with my aunt, um, I was sipping on gin and juice all day long in high school. And then this older man thought I was cute and wouldn't mind making me his wife. And he was 8 years older than me, and I married him.
And how
And
old were you?
when I met him, I was 16. When we really got together was 16.
And
And
he was 24,
yeah, I couldn't even, he was 20, yes, 24 exactly.
which is
And
actually against the law.
yeah,
Yeah,
well,
you
not
know.
not when your parents signed the papers. No,
Oh,
and
okay.
especially back in the eight. This was not 1985,
Oh gosh, yeah.
and so it's not. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of states still like that a parent can
I know
sign.
in the South they can marry young.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
they can still sign, give consent for you to get married when you're a minor. I couldn't even sign my own marriage license, and
Well,
so
the part I relate to is I escaped my house. The only way I could get out of my family was to get married.
yeah,
That was the
yeah,
only way I could, and I wasn't suicidal then. And the guy was cute, and I did love him, but I married my father,
yeah,
and of course he was an alcoholic. So that's the thing. And you were in the 80s. In the
yeah,
60s, it was really hard for women to find a way out of the family home.
yeah,
My parents were not supportive of college, and I was smart enough to go to college and wanted to go to college. So I finally saw that there's no way out. And even getting married, it was almost like escaping. So I can relate
Yeah.
to how you felt. But did you have feelings for him?
I did. The feeling I had was that maybe this older man can protect me from all the other bad men because, but
Mm,
I was sexual assault started at around age 9 when I started the alcohol, and
oh,
so I'm thinking, okay, well, hey, this would be perfect. I could be protected by this older man, but he ended up being the worst predator of all because I trusted him and he beat me. Oh, he beat me a lot. And then when he was pretty much finished with me and didn't want to deal with me anymore, he took our son away from me when my son was 2, sent him out of state, and left me homeless in the streets. So
oh,
that's how I ended up in the streets homeless for 19 years.
really? That
19,
long? How did
19
you
years.
survive?
Well, there were times I could sleep on sofas. There were times where somebody let me stay, or
Mhm.
there were men that wanted to deal with me for a while, so they allowed me to stay at their place. But I never had my own
And you were
place.
drinking.
I
Yeah,
was always back to the streets,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I was, and then crack started at age 19.
Oh boy. Yeah.
So I was a homeless crackhead prostitute for 19 years. And as a result of rapes or prostitution, my children were conceived. I had children that were conceived. Um,
Mhm.
and rightfully so, they were removed from my care. And then I started going through the systems of care. I was court ordered to a drug program, my first drug program, and 28-day program, which is not long enough for anybody.
In there.
Yeah, yeah. But I graduated. I went to aftercare the second Sunday, and the drug counselor there raped me.
You
So
know,
first
first
I
of all,
was
I want
going
to tell
through.
you, and I'm sure my listeners agree, I respect you so much for sharing all of those terrible things um, that happened that you needed to do and that you had no choices because, shame and guilt will kill you.
Oh yeah.
And light is a disinfectant.
Mm.
And when I wrote my book and people said, wow, you didn't leave anything out. No. And I am so happy for you that you're getting all of this poison out of your system. I really am. So back to that story. Was that a halfway house that you went to after the 28 days?
Well, it was a drug program that no, it was aftercare, not a halfway house. So
Okay.
after we graduate, every Sunday we had to go aftercare. So the second Sunday, I couldn't find a ride home because it was in Baltimore. I lived in Annapolis, and this drug counselor offered me a ride home, but he ended up raping me. And
Ah,
pretty much says no sense telling you about just a crackhead, just a prostitute, you nothing.
I can believe you.
And
And you
so,
believed him.
right, well, everywhere as I go, people were hurting me.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Then they started to diagnose me as mentally ill. So now that I was over medicated all the time when I was institutionalized.
Yeah.
For bipolar disorder, they would give me Thorazine, Ativan, and lithium at the same time, making it impossible for me to heal. So that was my life for like 19 years.
Wow.
I it was so dark, and
Yes.
I used to sit on the street curb, and I would watch people leave out their houses in the morning because I had been up all night long,
Yeah.
and beat, rape, on drugs, prostituting, all of that. And
Mm.
I would watch people come out their house to get in their cars to go to work. And I used to really believe that I would never be able to do that.
Of course. Why
I
would
really
you?
thought
Yeah.
that I would never be able to do that.
Right.
And I had no hope. And everybody treated me like that there was no hope. So,
And so where did you find strength to overcome all this trauma and addiction that you faced?
well, 21 years ago, I
Mhm.
ended up going into a program that actually treated my trauma, asked me what happened to me. I was pregnant again, and I really thought I was going to just have my baby, go back to my prison cell, and commit suicide. That was my plan. I was going to cuff my psychotropics enough to take my life because I I just couldn't live to lose
Mhm.
another baby. I got used to being raped. I did. I got used to drug dealers breaking every bone in my body with baseball bats. I got used to that, but I couldn't get used to someone taking my child away from me. And so
Yeah,
now I was back in prison, pregnant, and I was in my cell one day and I did something I never ever did before in my life. I cried out to God. I cried out to God and I screamed, and it wasn't even a prayer, but it's an eerie, desperate cry. And it was pretty much, I don't know if you listen to people like me, but if you do, please help me. Please don't let them take this baby.
yeah.
And that was my prayer. And from that moment, I never had another desire to use drugs
The
and smoke
day.
or smoke a cigarette. And
Yeah.
here I am 21 years later, and my 20-year-old she's amazing, you know.
There's a comma there because my story, when I hit a bottom, nobody would think it was a bottom. I don't have the same story as you. Uh, I was like a functional alcoholic, you might say, but very depressed, very everything else. But when I hit my emotional, psychological bottom, I was sitting in my car and I said out loud, God, please
Mhm.
help me. I can't do this anymore. And that night I was in rehab
Mhm.
and I am sober 34 years. So when
Congratulations.
you said what you said, I got goosebumps.
Yeah.
I get goosebumps because I don't care what religion you are, doesn't matter. There's something bigger than us, I believe, in the universe. And when you ask for help sincerely, you get it.
Yeah.
That really hit me. You
Yeah.
got me with that.
I
Yeah.
I cried out to God. He answered me, but he didn't just answer me by letting me keep my daughter.
Yeah.
He made sure that he was going to position me to be able to provide and take care of her. And she's always from pre-K, she's always been in private schools, you know what I mean, and always lived in, safe, good communities
So
and
you're in prison and you ask God for help or whatever your higher power
God.
is.
Mhm.
And what happened next, though, in the
Well, after that, so they pretty much told me I had to stay there and do my time because it was my 83rd arrest and my 66th conviction. And
wow.
so one of my charges was violation of parole. So there was like, no, she can't get parole. She can't do, it's nothing we can do for her. So, but I cried out to God and
Yes.
he made a way. And I ended up going to a program, and this program allowed me to keep my daughter with me.
Wow.
And they help us to form a secure attachment with our children. It was a program for pregnant inmates that you
Your
leave prison
house, right?
and you go to a community program.
Good.
And it was amazing. They asked what happened to you instead of what was wrong with you. They provide me, help me to create a toolbox to help me with my triggers. And also, helped me to do things that I've never done before, like be successful in being a homemaker. Like when I moved in an apartment, I didn't know how to pay bills. I didn't know how to budget. They taught me things. They didn't assume just because I was an adult, I would know how to be successful at it. So so I went into that program and I did very well. And I everything just shot up from there.
Did you
Just
get training for some kind of job? Did you have job training or?
well, actually, I did so well in the program. I volunteer when I finished the program to help the new women. So one day, the one of the co-founders of the program came to the facility and they said, "Well, Tonier, since you're here all the time, why don't we just give you a job?" So they made me
Oh,
an
wow.
acting case manager,
There
and
you go.
my job was to make appointments for the women, take them on their appointments. And
Yeah.
then after that, they had a sister program that they wanted me to go and be the director of peer services. And
Yeah.
so, and then I got promoted to be the executive assistant to the founder.
There you
And
go.
it was like that. And in the process of doing that, I started to speak. I was in a film called Behind Closed Doors. It did very well. I
Yeah.
traveled with the film, and people start talking about this woman, Tonier Cain, that's speaking, and I got on this journey of speaking, and as a matter of fact, people were requesting me to speak so much. That's the reason why we did the documentary, so I wouldn't have to
Oh,
travel so much. But
yeah.
it made me even in more demand. And pre-COVID, I was speaking up to 230 times a year.
Wow. And you were getting paid for
Oh
speaking,
yeah.
I
Yeah,
hope.
yeah, I get paid very well for it.
That's
And
wonderful.
I just came off a speaking tour. I just got back home off a speaking tour. And so I still do that. I'm
Wow.
my main thing now. I produce film and television now. I live
Okay.
in Beverly Hills.
Good for you. Oh, gee.
It's,
Big difference.
it's a huge difference, but and I have a second book. I have curriculums. I own several companies. And so, yeah, it's been an amazing journey.
If you're looking for an actor, my one grandson's an actor.
Is it really?
I'll just send you his information and his
Okay.
headshots. Granny never stops with that. But
That's right.
oh my God, it's like amazing. You know, your story, like it's amazing that you survived. And the reason you survived, I believe, is because that higher power needed you to survive so that you could help other women or men, but mostly women. And that's how I felt too, and I got sober and I was a sponsor for many, many years and tried to help a lot of women. And some people got it and some people didn't. And that's just the way it is. But I have women I'm in touch with to this day that, are always sending me cards and stuff that told them how much I helped them. But you know what? You know what helped them? Having someone that cared enough to listen to them.
Hmm.
Not to like tell them what to do and everything, but to
Yeah.
listen. And
Yeah.
also, um, if you know anything about 12-step programs, there's a spot where you tell your sponsor all the things bad in your life, let's say that you did. I did this, I killed somebody, whatever. And they would do that step with me, and they would have really hard things to tell me. And then after it was over, I had a little ritual we did and everything. And the one day, this woman left and she went up to her car and she sat there and she came back in. And she said, I didn't tell you everything. I said, oh, got to tell me everything if you want it washed away. And she had an abortion when she was very young and she was staunch Catholic and very ashamed of it. And not many people probably even knew, probably nobody knew. And she has 30 years now. And I really believe if she kept that secret, the secrets make you sick. Secrets make you sick. So when people like us aren't afraid to tell our truth, that is such a gift you're giving to humanity. It really is. It's a legacy that you're doing here. I appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you.
I
And
do.
it's pretty much just giving hope to people. You know,
Exactly.
I tell people all the time, no matter what, I just was, I speaking, keynoting a few conferences for
Yeah.
providers. No matter what it looks like, no matter what the
Yeah.
record is, there's always hope for people, you
I
know.
had I had two children and I had no child support, and I had an ex-husband, their father, that stalked me and beat me and didn't want to let me go. He didn't pay child support, but he wanted to own me, and we were divorced. And I went through years of torment with that. And finally, someone said, "Go to college." And I'm like, "How am I going to go to college?" And they went, right now, with your income and two kids, you can go for free.
Mhm.
And I went back to school at 28 years old. I went to college. And that's what I wanted to do when I was young. And like, never give up and never give up hope on your dreams because you never know. And even though I was struggling and my kids didn't eat the best food in the world, but I kept them fed, I ended up my dream going to college. And the same thing, like, oh my God, like I'm just amazed, just amazed. And your stories, you went through really a lot of hardship too. I mean, dark, like you said. I could see. I'm going to read your book, and I'm sure I'm going to relate even
Quite
more.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I'll send you mine. Um, I can email a digital copy to you for
Okay.
free, and all you have to do is click on the link if you'd like. Mine's called Raised by Wolves, Trapped by Demons,
Okay.
because my parents, they had four children, and they thought we should stay home and work for them the rest of our lives. Here's a girl wants to go to college, and
Yeah.
they wanted me to be their little slave, you know. So, and then my escape turned out to be men and alcohol. And then I found out I had my own demons. So it's sort of like yours, where it starts out a little dark and
Yeah.
troubled, and I had to go through some stuff.
Mhm.
But then I finally took the right path, the right turn, right opportunities, and came out of it. And today, I'm not a religious person, but I'm very spiritual, And in fact, my shirt, I have my church shirt on. Let's see. You can see it. Yeah, there it is. Unity of the Palm Beaches. And I became a prayer chaplain and did a lot of things with the church. But um, things I've never thought I would do. And I have a
Yeah.
great grandson, and I have grandchildren and beautiful children and a good life. And what you came from is like 10 times worse. And you're a beautiful woman. And you're
Okay.
sitting there and you are like successful and confident. So that's what we need. You're a beacon. You're a beacon. And
We
you
are
will be
all are.
surprised. You will be surprised that someone somewhere might see this or hear the podcast and make a phone call and go get help or do
Yeah.
something
That's
different.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. So let's talk about in the recovery process, and you mentioned this, they don't often deal with the trauma. Is that
Right.
what you said? Talk about that a little bit.
So I had 30 over 30 failed treatments over those years. That
Mhm.
I went to that many substance abuse programs. But they were the traditional ones that just break you
Yeah.
down and fill you back up, which makes absolutely no sense.
Right,
But
right.
this program was I had a therapist that was a trauma therapist,
Mm.
and she helped me to heal, helped me starting my healing process. And by working with everything that's ever happened to me, and it was kind of like a grieving process for all of it. And then even the loss of my children and all of that. So it's like getting to the core issue of why I was using drugs, you
Right,
know,
right.
um, why I couldn't get past living on the streets. And then, of course, all the mental health diagnoses was just being misdiagnosed because what they were seeing was symptoms of trauma, not of mental health
So
illness.
you weren't bipolar.
Right. I haven't been on psychotropics
Yes, there
since,
you go. There you go. Give
right,
them.
since right has been identified, addressed, and treated properly.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Um, it's amazing. So now, did you lose track of any of your children that you had, being that they were
Oh yeah,
missing?
they were adopted out, and
Yeah.
um, I've I'm reunited with my sons. The only one I haven't reunited with is my oldest daughter, and she's just not ready. But I have five grandkids. As a matter of fact,
Wow.
um, this Friday coming,
Mhm.
this next Friday, my daughter and I are going to Houston because my son has three kids, and the last one just was born in January. So I need to go see my new grandson.
Yeah.
I take them on a Disney cruise every year. And we
That's
just have spent a whole week on a cruise. I can just have time for my grandchildren and my son and his wife and my daughter. So because when you go on cruises, it forces you to shut down. And
mm.
like if I'm here on land, I'm answering the phone, I'm on
Oh,
these.
yeah.
Yeah, but when you're on a cruise, you kind of
Chill out. You got to chill out. Yeah.
shut down. And so that's why we do it. So
Good.
yeah. But I'm we'll be going to see my grandkids.
So a process of like I'm sure each one was different, but your
Yes.
children, except for the oldest, have pretty much forgiven you.
Yes.
Okay, that's wonderful. Yeah, even though I say I was a functional alcoholic, which I was, I was dealing with a lot of stuff and working and taking care of two children, but I would come home and drink. And I'd go out on the weekends and drink. I'd get a babysitter, that kind of thing. But I still regret, and think, oh, how bad was I? Did I give them enough love? Did I give them still love them enough and hug them and kiss them? Or was I always on to the next thing? You know? But they're grown. My oldest is 52, and it's odd because she's fine. And the other daughter, we get on each other's nerves, but um, you know what? You have to let go of that because they have their own journey of dealing with it. Like that's their trauma.
Hmm.
That's their trauma.
Hmm.
And sometimes it bothers one child more than the other child, that kind of thing. So when I wrote this book, and neither one of them read it, and I don't expect them to read it, but I decided to ask them why. And I thought I knew the answer. And the one daughter said, I don't want to read bad things about my father.
Hmm.
And the other one said, I don't want to ruin the happy memories of my childhood. How different are those answers
Yeah.
when you think about it, right?
Yeah.
So that I found that interesting. So things like writing books, like we did, and getting our stories out there, like we're doing, it is important. It
Hmm.
is important for more than one reason. And I recently, let's see our time. I don't want to be taking all our time. I recently, because I do everything on the show, I keep it variety. And do you know what the Akashic records are? Have you ever heard that? Are you into any of that stuff? Okay. Well, there's a theory that everything that you ever did, that anybody ever did, is somewhere in like a cosmic library. Got to keep it open mind. You don't have to believe it. It's just something that some people have been looking into since 1976. So I had a woman on my show that does that, and I said, do mine and do it live. I want it on the show. And she said, really? Maybe you killed somebody in a former life. I said, I don't care. Let's do it. So I bring that up because um, I'm doing it for fun, but it is interesting because she's coming up with things that hit the mark with me, my personality. So she said, you had 6 lives. And your first life, you're going to like this. You were a female gladiator in 280. I didn't even know there were female gladiators, right? But what that said to me was if you do believe in like living life over, like reincarnation or whatever, I could picture that because I'm a very strong willed person. And I know you, even though you were in the depths of that despair, you still were a very strong person to survive it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it reminded me of that. So I tell people now when I have a health problem or whatever, they say, oh, how you get along and you have to take care of your husband because he's Parkinson's. And I go, I'm a gladiator. I was a gladiator in a former life. This is nothing, right? But women, we're so underestimated. And even today, you see all these rock stars now that they're finding out that they pretty much have women in bondage and stuff, and like the stuff that's going on even today.
Hmm.
And it just started coming out recently. So what happened to you is more common than people think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's,
the way you were treated, you
yeah.
know.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter if you're a black woman or a white woman or Puerto Rican or whatever. There's predators out there. There's
Yeah.
predators. And part of your story too is like to help women that I did the same thing. I thought a man was going to save me. take care of me, right?
Yeah,
No, you got to take care of yourself.
pretty much.
Yeah. But see, you had no coping skills. Like we did not come from a good family where we were taught things like self-reliance and confidence. We were just the opposite, right? You were treated like you were nothing. And that makes a big difference too. But God bless you, you still have something left in the tank. How long were you in prison?
Well, I got
That
arrested.
that last time.
I oh, the last time I was in prison only 5 months because I went to the program. But
Yeah.
my biggest sentence, my longest sentence was a 10-year sentence.
Oh my God. And how much of that did you serve?
Well, it was 10 years. Well, I ended up serving all of it because I kept violating. They gave
Oh,
me 10 years. They suspended 6. I did, and that they sent me to do the 4, but then I ended up violating and have to finish it off. So
wow. So you could write a book just on prison life, I'm sure.
yeah.
I mean, that's, I can't even imagine. I went to a 28-day recovery program. And when I said I wanted help, and then I told my husband and someone I knew that knew stuff like this, I thought they were sending me to a spa. I did, I didn't think about alcoholism or anything. I just thought I needed a rest. So I feel tricked. I got there and they're like, "What do you have a bathing suit in here? There's no pool. This is not a retreat for." And they were all big book, right? All about the big book. And we had the 12-step meetings and we had everything I needed that I didn't know I needed. And I was on the phone every night crying, I'm come home. I want to come home. Take me home. And my husband would say, just stay one more day. Just stay one more day.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
but I can't, but I still had a choice if I wanted to walk out that door. You did not when you're in prison.
Yeah. Nope.
What's that like when you are in a cell? Did you have a cellmate?
Yeah, I had a cellmate. Well, when I wasn't fighting them.
That's what I mean.
I,
Yeah,
yeah, I had
that's tough.
yeah, I used to get go on lock all the time. I used to fight a lot. So I
Well,
used to do
we
a
had
lot
to.
of yeah, I used to do a lot of my time on lockup. So
Well, it's a. They say that. Uh, I mean, really, survival of the fittest. I mean, you're not hanging out with the best of the best. You're hanging out with the worst of the worst. So
right. But so women prison isn't like the men prison, not the prisons I've been
it's
to.
not
It's
quite as bad.
you
Oh.
know what I mean? You don't see people getting shanked all the time, you know what I mean? It's all petty
It's
stuff.
more like they call it cat fights.
Like, yeah, stuff like that. It's all petty stuff. Let's be, but
Sometimes.
your beef is more with the officer than with each other for real. So,
Now, did any of them abuse you or try to be sexual with you?
oh yeah, in the detention centers, I used to get sexually abused all the time in the detention centers. But when I in the prisons, no, but in the detention centers, I was a
That's
lot.
a, so what advice would you give to someone who's currently struggling with addiction and has had trauma in their life, and maybe that's part of the addiction itself? What advice would you give them?
To get seek help. The one thing about trauma, is things that has happened to us. Ironically, is things that we can't help ourselves with by ourselves because if we could,
Yeah,
so therapy is important to get, but to make sure that the therapist is is a trauma therapist because there's you don't want to go to the traditional ones.
yeah.
Um, Also, I have a nonprofit that we provide free services for trauma survivors. Um, And if they go to the website, toniercain.com, we can give them resources and case management for
Make sure
free.
you email me all this stuff so I can put it in the show notes.
For free.
Yeah.
And so, and then SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration. So it's SAMSHA.gov. You can go to find a trauma therapist, and they usually have some ways that people can get it without half the pain as well.
And
I'm
there's,
the yeah,
yeah, go ahead. No, you finish.
the former team leader for the National Center for Trauma Informed Care. When SAMHSA funded the National Center in 2008, they brought me in as the team leader.
There you
And
go.
so our job was to educate the country. And I've been to
Mhm.
every state to educate the country on the impact of trauma. So
Yeah.
they have a lot of resources and is there to help people as well.
And there's different types of trauma. There's different degrees. You can have layers of trauma. Yours is very extreme, physical and sexual, very extreme. But sometimes it could be like living with an alcoholic father, which I did, a mother that was cold. Um, Something happened. I don't know what it was. I don't remember the first 12 years of my life. And a psychiatrist told me once, well, your brain is probably protecting you. That's why you don't remember, you know?
Yeah. Well, trauma, a lot of people always say, well, I'm even ashamed to talk about my trauma after hearing your story. It's not about the actual traumatic events, it's about how people respond to the trauma. So you can had lost a family member and never been able to get over it and still responded to it the same way I responded to it
Yeah,
by
it's
the
trauma.
fact that I've been raped so many times
Oh,
stopped
yeah,
counting them.
yeah,
So it's really about the response.
it
And
is.
trauma informed care is about getting services to help you to respond in a healthier way to your triggers
Right.
that from
And you
the
can't do that in 28 days. And
right. You can't do it in 20 days and you can't do it in a drug program. You need a if it's a drug program, it's got to be a trauma informed drug
right,
program.
right.
But it's so individualized trauma. Everybody,
Yes, yeah,
what they need to help them, it's different, so there's
yeah.
no cookie cutter,
Right. What not one size fits all. And
right. It's
um,
not. So
when
it's
I when I
individual.
stopped drinking, I did what a lot of addicted people do. I just picked up another addiction, and it was food. So 9 months sober, I had gained 50 pounds and I was depressed. And I went to a treatment center for food issues and for in California, in LA, and for 3 weeks. And they helped me go in deeper to core issues of lack of self-worth and why I, felt certain ways and about triggers. And then 5 years sober, I got severely depressed and I went away to a very, very intensive family of origin program at the Cairn Foundation. Tonier, it was only 5 days and they take only 5 people.
Mhm.
And what they do is role play. One person's your father, and another person's your mother. And wow, the stuff that came out there, talk about the scream. You said when you screamed out to God to help you. Yeah, this one exercise I did. And I'm still in therapy. Still.
Mhm.
There's so many layers, and you don't even realize that you have them. Like you certainly still have things that you need to work on, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the key is not to give up, not to stop. But first of all, to get out of the insanity, which is what you did, is to know you can't do it yourself
Yeah.
and ask your higher power for help. This was really a very, very good interview. I'm glad you came.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And I hope you got to say everything that you wanted to say. And what are your hopes for the future for like yourself and for others who are on a similar path to healing? Do you
Well,
have?
so I right now I'm in this production world and we have some great movies in television shows that's in different phases of development. I'm executive producer of a Christmas movies coming out the end of the year, and
Oh, yeah.
we're about to shoot a television show. And so everything is always a little bit about my story that we
Yeah.
create, but I also now acquire other people's stories and produce stories that I think that's compelling. I have my own production company,
Mhm.
Purpose for
Mhm.
Entertainment, and
Yes.
so all of our content have to inspire, uplift, and give hope. So I'm also a minor in film investor as well,
Huh?
and so I will continue to get good content out there, new books,
Uh-huh.
things like that, and
Yeah.
still do my speaking tours. So just continue to give the message of hope, you know.
And sitting on that curbstone and thinking, I'll never have a life like these people coming out the door. And look at the life you have today.
As is sometimes I think it's so surreal for me. Sometimes I think I'm watching somebody else's life. So yeah.
Power of hope. It's just amazing. And you're an amazing guest. Thank you so much. And I hope our listeners got something out of that because I certainly did. Thank you again, Tonier, for coming today.
Thank you for having me. God bless you.